Hey there everybody, I'm Pete Burak and welcome to Cathlist. Once again, we are being graciously hosted by the Order of Friars Minor Capuchin at the beautiful and historic St. Bonaventure Monastery here in Detroit, because on November 18th, 2017, Father Solanus Casey, who lived and worked in this very monastery, is being beatified. If you haven't seen last week's episode on the monastery itself, check that out after this. It's an interesting place and it's a beautiful place to visit. And it's cool to know that we have this spot basically in our backyard. Unless, of course, you live in Alaska, in which case you'd have to have a massive backyard.
And I can see Russia from my house.
Today we'll be talking about Capuchin monkeys. Just kidding, Capuchin monkeys. No, really. We'll be talking about the Order of Friars Minor Capuchin. But did you ever wonder why the Capuchin monkey is called that? In the olden days, the brown-hooded friars were familiar to European explorers who trekked across the New World forests and encountered wild Capuchins. The monkeys, not the friars. They were very civilized. And since the markings of the little buggers kind of resembled the habits of the monks, that's why they were named, I guess. And that is just one fact regarding the Order of the Friars Minor Capuchin we'll be talking about today. And as a special treat, if you stick around to the end and you're very good and you say please and thank you, we will have Father Tom with us today to talk about a few of the Capuchin ministries. So stick around. Did you know that as of right now, there are 15 Capuchin saints? The list includes the famous names of Saint Padre Pio, but also lesser-known saints like Veronica Giuliani, Seraphim of Montegranaro, and Leopold Mandic. We'll make a note of those so we can do an episode on them sometime later, if we keep being renewed. And if you keep watching and sharing, send it to your friends. Or did you know that there are a ton of Capuchin blesseds, venerables, and servants of God? All three of those titles are different steps in the process to sainthood. We'll have an episode on that, and it'll be linked below once it's published. St. Francis of Assisi, may have heard of him, kind of famous, founded the Franciscan order on February 24th, 1209. Well, the Order of Friars Minor Capuchin is among the chief offshoots of the Franciscans and was founded in 1520, when a group of Franciscans wanted to live a stricter rule than the original Order of Friars Minor that Francis founded. They were inspired by the life and ideals of St. Francis, and they are dedicated to serving those in need while living a simple lifestyle of private prayer. When the Capuchin branch of the Franciscans began, there were a few setbacks. Two of the founders left, and one was expelled for insubordination. Another left the order and the faith, and as a result of these things, the Capuchin were put under suspicion of heretical tendencies. Seems fair. And the Pope forbade them from preaching. Eventually, though, the authorities were satisfied with the soundness of the general body of the Capuchin friars, and they were given permission to preach once again. After these few minor setbacks, the movement exploded, and they had spread all over Catholic Europe by the end of the 16th century. In 1619, the Orders of Friars Minor Capuchin were freed from their dependence on another branch of the Franciscans and became an order of their own. Of course, the Capuchins were not confined to Europe. Very soon after their founding, they undertook missions to non-Catholics in America, Asia, Africa. They even started a college in Rome specifically for the purpose of preparing their members for foreign missions. Because of their strong and active missions, Capuchins have suffered martyrdom over the centuries. Saint Fidelis of Sigmaringen, for instance, was a Capuchin friar who was preaching in a Swiss church when some Calvinists stormed the church. He was persuaded to flee by the congregation, but ultimately returned and was murdered by the Calvinists because he would not renounce the Catholic faith. Good man. The United States is home to 6 Capuchin provinces, including this one we're in right now, the province of St. Joseph. And together with the 2 provinces in Canada, the province of Australia, and the custody of the Mariana Islands / Hawaii, they form the North American Pacific Capuchin Conference, or the NAPCC for short. I like that, NAPCC. All right, it's my great pleasure to welcome to Cathlist Father Tom Wynn. Father Tom, so
yes.
One of the many things that the Capuchins are involved in here in Detroit is a young adult outreach, which is a special place in my heart, given that I'm the director of ID 916. So tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing with young adults and why.
Well, the young adult ministry at the Solanus Center, it's called Tap into Life. we're inviting young adults to build community. We're inviting young adults to enter into the wealth of their faith and their experiences that God gives. Each person has a wealth of knowledge. Each person has a wealth of experience of faith. And that invitation to share that's where the richness is. Tapping Life is a great ministry that builds that Franciscan community, that sister brotherhood, and invites them to share that richness.
Wonderful. So young adults, how would you guys define that?
So young adults, ages 18 to 35, it's a big spectrum,
Sure.
You know, but 18 to 35 because we all go through different stages of life, you know, and I think the college stage and after finding a job and finding families and getting established, those are all stages of young adults, you know, and how do we allow that to connect with each other.
Wonderful. So I'm a young adult, I hear about Tap into Life. What do I come to? What am I participating in? 4 dynamics that really brings it together. I think the first is faith formation, the faith formation aspect. So you're coming, building community, and then we come together for a topic, and we break open that topic, and the young adults really gather, and they speak over an hour. Wow. Or an hour and a half. I mean, our first one was like over 2 hours. Oh,
You know?
wow. So, you got some chatty young adults.
But the way they share and they find a place that they can be comfortable to share with each other, their struggles, their faith. And that experience leads us to the tomb of Solanus. You know, we go there and pray together around the tomb of Solanus, and to find that sense of peace with each other, knowing the strength of prayer. You know, the other dynamic that we have with Tapping into Life is the service. You know, because we're Capuchins, you know, that centeredness around social justice, the soup kitchen. So we have ministries with the soup kitchen that we're trying to get young adults to be engaged in. Perfect. At Earthworks and all that as well. And the other aspect is we have a podcast. We're trying to do podcasts, Tapping into Life podcast.
You can pitch it here, Tapping into Life podcast. That sounds good, yeah.
And you know, just different ways of trying. Getting young adults something to really tap into, you know,
no pun intended,
on their levels, you know, and what they usually use in their lives, you know. So,
wonderful. It's one thing to talk about kind of what you do, and even a little bit of why, but do you have any stories of the impact it's had on young adults? Any examples of the fruit that's been born of some young adults coming or serving? Or
there's a couple that came and they weren't even expecting to be a part of the group, and they just came to pray. And we opened the door and said, "Come, are you here?" Yeah. And we invited them in, and the whole community just welcomed them. As we invited them to share about their lives, they broke open their stories and said, you know, shared about their struggle with addictions and struggles with how they found each other, how they saved each other. And how they brought each other back to the sense of faith and this grounding of love. And they came to the Solanus Center because Solanus was that one that helped them to find gratitude, thank God ahead of time. And the way they shared their stories, they invited the whole community to come in. They invited the other young adults to share from their own experiences, their own struggles. And that's how they continue to save each other's lives and build up their own community here.
Okay,
you know?
Very good. Well, thank you, Father, for your time.
Thank you so much,
That's
Pete.
all the time we have for today, folks, with Cathlist. We'll see you next week. God bless. Well, the Order of Friars Minor Capuchin. Why are you? Because it's just so long. In the custody of the Marinara. Delicious.